Yo, Joe. Talking comics, here's your host. It's A Real American Brian.
Hello, YouTube. It's A Real American Brian, and I'm not alone today. I have my best friend Jonny with me.
Real American other guy.
Indeed.
Where's my song?
So we have done many projects together, the biggest one being Zlorpcast. If you haven't heard of that or haven't seen that, then you should check it out on YouTube. I'll put a link down below. It's the two of us talking to two other guys about games and comics and all kinds of nerdy stuff.
Now there are two other guys, lowercase other guys. In this, I'm other guy, capital O, capital
Indeed.
Yes. OG other guy.
Yes, absolutely.
It's bizarro, but I'm liking it. I'm liking this format. Dare I say, F Zlorpcast, I'm all in on Real American Brian.
Look at that. All the subscribers from Zlorpcast should come over to Real American Brian, apparently.
That's right. You got 26 subscribers faster than Zlorpcast got 26 subscribers. Just saying.
All right. So today I brought Jonny on, and we're going to go over Silent Option. We're going to do a flip through and talk about our opinions on it and some of the characters and overall review the book. So Silent Option was, well, I guess before we get started, I need to give a spoiler warning. We are going to be going through the story. We're not going to go in great detail, but we're going to be flipping through the book and talking about some things that happen. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you can go ahead and skip this video, but watch the next one.
Take the silent option. If you don't want the spoiler, we'll do this. You hit the mute button and just watch and pretend.
Indeed. Yeah, just keep it running though, so I get that view on there.
I think it might count for more if they go all the way. I don't know though how that works.
I mean, it always counts more if you go all the way.
That's Zlorpcast.
But yeah, so you've been warned. We're going to spoil some things, but this is a book that is still fairly easy to get your hands on. It's on Amazon for less than retail, and I saw auctions all over eBay. It's not one of those trade paperbacks that got insanely expensive. This is a very easy to acquire one.
Quick side note, Extreme, do most of your trades do this from IDW, or is that just the way I stored them when I moved or something?
I don't know. I haven't had that problem, but that looks like a binding issue to me.
I have about 7 different Joe trades that's happened to, and does not happen on my other books. Other similar size trades,
You should write a letter to IDW. I bet they care.
No, I'll just put it on my show.
All right, so your show. Before we dig into the book, I think it's important to establish where we're at in the timeline of the IDW G.I. Joe American Hero continuity. So this book takes place after issue 250. And that whole period of the book was a very divisive period for a lot of the G.I. Joe comic community, at least the people with online opinions, where people will point to that era as the reason they stopped reading the book, because all these female characters were being introduced and Snake Eyes was killed, and all these reasons that they have that I'm not sure are even legitimate reasons most of the time. I think they already gave up on the book or never gave it a chance in the first place, and they want something to point at.
Is some of that because A Real American Hero stories from Marvel and IDW is supposed to be the real story? Because I mean, all kinds of other stuff has happened in all various other books. Why is it this one that's a problem?
Maybe. I mean, I would say for the most part, like the bulk of the G.I. Joe comic book fans, you'll hear things like, I have the full run. I have 1 through 155. Like, whoa. There's a lot of content that you're giving up on that is still part of that run that's actually really good. There's some really good stories in there that you're just choosing not to read because it's not Marvel. But there are people that will claim they gave it a chance for a while and they gave up on it, and usually it's during this period.
They made it so that, I mean, because we're talking about, you mentioned, just to put it in perspective, if you're buying trades, this is 20 and a half, right? Volume 20.5 is what it would be.
Yeah. So this would be issue. I mean, if you put it in line with the issues, it'd be like 251 through 254.
So you're saying that there are people that read 100 issues of IDW and then now I'm out.
They claim. I think there's other things going on there, but personally, I think they're crazy because I think the story arc leading up to this and then this, I think, are some of Larry Hama's best work. Like, I think he worked when you would get like, you're gonna have these 4 issues, it's gonna be one continuous story arc. I think that's when he's at his best, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's where we're at. We have 2 Snake Eyes running around, and I don't know how I feel about all of it, but I wanted to get your opinion on some of it. So not too far before this, we have the death of Snake Eyes. Then we have Sean Collins becoming Snake Eyes, or taking on the title of Snake Eyes. And then we have Don Moreno coming in, getting Snake Eyes' memories and being Snake Eyes. So we have 2 Snake Eyes running around.
Yeah.
So I want to get your opinion on it.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's really weird. You go from the death of the original Snake Eyes, and then you have, it's kind of the way that happened, what led up to that was really interesting, very unique how they did that. And then very good issue with the funeral and all of that. Then immediately, you've got replacement is here. Like if you have like a pet that dies and it's like right before, it's like, well, here's the new dog. It's like, oh no, you got the new dog? I'm not even gone yet.
And that's one of the reasons I mean, just to put it out there, I don't really care for the Sean Collins Snake Eyes character. And one of the biggest reasons is because it happened so soon. It would be like your example of getting a pet while you're burying the other pet. Like the new dog is there. Like, can't we have like a little period of...
I agree with you. However, I'll even take it a step further and say, I would appreciate him more if they did something to make him unique. I get that, the connection with his dad and like Crimson Guard and everything, but the fact of the matter is he looks exactly like Snake Eyes because they have the same build. Obviously, they're going to fight the same. And then there is the I don't talk, vocal cords were damaged, and my face is messed up, and I wear a mask, and I have the rubber mask that's a regular person mask after that. It's too similar.
It all happened so conveniently and so quickly that it
feels like a
cringe, as the kids say.
Yeah. It feels like a TV show, like a live action show where they change the actress out, like a new mom on Fresh Prince, And it's like, Or is that Aunt Viv? She looks different, right? Is Aunt Viv? Like they couldn't get Snake Eyes contract settled. And so we brought in a new one to slide right in.
Right. So, but then on the other hand, you have Dawn, who I think is a much more fleshed out. I do have one criticism of her character arc, but I think she's a much more interesting character, and I like her a lot. I think there's a lot there to explore.
My criticism of that is finding her playing lacrosse doesn't make me want to get into lacrosse. Thought maybe if it was basketball or something.
The criticism I had was that, again, it all happened so fast. Like I felt like that should have been a much longer story, where it was like very much, we see her in high school, she's in the Cobra Junior Academy, then she's a ninja because of Snake Eyes' memories, and we're going to send her off to boot camp so she'd become a Joe, and it all happened like so quick.
So on that note, in Silent Option, I was trying to gauge timelines a little bit, because I will say that I think in general this whole series can do a little better with timelines. Like I'm really big on dates and time, like just to make me feel like I know what's going on and where things fall into place. And I'm not talking about like see issue whatever. I mean, like I get you don't want to date it with years and this and that, but whatever. I say that because in Silent Option, Dawn is speaking like she's maybe 22, 21-ish. The way she's saying, oh, back when I was training in Cobra, we would just do bake sales and we didn't do anything. And I'm like, that I thought was like 6 months ago.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some excuse for some of that, like wisdom she hasn't earned because she has Snake Eyes' memories. But when it comes to specific things in her life, yeah, you're absolutely right. That was just a couple days ago.
And I'm also, and maybe I'm reading them. So I'll give another sort of preface things. I am an old school G.I. Joe toy and a cartoon and that kind of thing. I'm actually reading these now. I have not read past this, just so you know. So this would be volume 20.5 in the trades. I have stopped here to talk about this. So maybe for someone was reading them as they came out every month, it felt more natural to have Dawn have more real life wisdom, not Snake Eyes memories, but real life wisdom to add to these kind of conversations. Like in this with Bomb Strike and with Helix talking about, she doesn't feel like a high school kid at all in this.
Yeah, no, and
feels,
I mean,
like a young adult.
And she went through some shit, so she definitely aged beyond like your traditional high school kid. And some of that too, I think, is just like young people in general. Like when they look at their own personal timelines, things feel like a long time ago that really weren't that long ago. Now that, like, as you get older. But anyway,
so to really answer your question, I'm fine with it. It's something different. It's a little weird. It's like the kids with the meme with the Spider-Man pointing, I don't know where, and again, I don't know what happens after this. So I'm just speaking completely on the naive side, but for a while, I thought it was going to be each side got a Snake Eyes for a long time.
Yeah.
That's what I thought was going to happen. Knowing what I knew from like covers of issues and looking at things. And then I'm saying, okay, we're both good guys now. So I'm still trying to understand what's going to happen. Are they going to kill off Throwdown at this point somehow? Is he going to retire? I don't know. So I'm kind of, me not knowing, that's probably makes it more interesting to me than it is to you right now, because you know where it went, whereas I don't know. So I don't have I don't have a problem with it because I don't know where it's going to go. Dawn's way more interesting because, first off, having memories implanted in you and Dr. Venom and Mindbender, and this went wrong, and why was no one watching the machine in the first place? Right. Why someone's like, hey, there's like a pizza at the door, and everyone goes and leaves like, oh, dude, it's open. Let's go. And it's crazy. So it was.
If people were responsible around that machine, though, we would have so many fewer G.I. Joe stories. Like so many G.I. Joe stories revolve around this damn machine.
And that's true. Even Cobra stories too.
Yeah.
Because they're in the same era of this right now. There's other beings living essentially within the machine and thoughts and things like that. So yeah, I hope something better happens on the Throwdown Sean Collins side. I thought they were going to do a little more with, maybe they will with like I don't know, the Fred series, CGs and everything, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, indeed. So that kind of covers the Snake Eyes and where we're at there. So one of the things that's kind of crazy, when I first got this book, the first time I read it, all the silent option covers I saw always had like Dawn on the cover. I thought it was like a Dawn story, but it's really a Helix story where the crew's going after her. So I wanted to talk about Helix because I think her character creation story is unique. The traditional path during the 80s and the Marvel years was Hasbro would make a toy, show it to Larry. Larry would do the file card, and they would tell him, in this month period, we need this toy to appear in the comic. And then the character would be in A Real American Hero. Done. Helix came apart where in the comics are no longer there to sell toys. It's just another part of the property. But Helix was originally an unlockable character in a video game. I'm told it's a very bad video game. I never played it, so I don't have any firsthand knowledge. Okay. But she wasn't even a main character. She was an unlockable character, but I guess she was popular enough with the right people that Hasbro from there ended up making an action figure of her. And then a little while after that, she appeared in the IDW continuity book. And then there was a break there, and a little while later, she's introduced in Silent Option in the Real American Hero story arc. So to get to that continuity, like her path there, like through a video game that led to a figure, is different than what we're traditionally used to. And I think, in my opinion, the ideal way to read this story is this trade, exactly how it's included here, because it starts off with a mystery, and then if you want like the backstory and stuff, it's at the end. So you get to explore the mystery of the whole thing. But yeah, I think we should open up the book and get right into it.
Yeah, first I have to wonder, I had no idea I was going to get to hear Alpine say, "Guess again, dog barf." Great line.
For sure. So we start off with our credits. Larry Hama wrote the book, obviously. It's in the Real American Hero continuity. And Nitho Diaz is the artist. As I reread this recently, preparing for this, I was reminded how much I really love his artwork. I think he is possibly my favorite G.I. Joe artist. If he's not my all-time favorite, he's definitely on the list of favorites.
Really, can I just say how much I like the dossiers, by the way?
Yeah,
it's awesome.
That's very cool.
How is that not in every single trade?
Do I have a little spot of dirt on my camera there? That's not on my book. That's on the camera. Ignore that. Yeah, so the dossiers are great, and they're great in this too, because this is a different G.I. Joe squad than we're used to. You know, we didn't send out Scarlet and Snake Eyes and, you know, the normal group. This is a little bit different. We have Alpine and Torpedo, who we rarely see in the comics. And Bomb Strike is leading the squad, which is pretty cool.
Although still not big, I had to get reminded that Alpine's real name is Alpine. I had to get reminded of that, and I got a little irritated when I saw that again.
Yeah.
I put it out of my memory. You know what this reminds me of, by the way? This reminds me of like either a video game or a role-playing game where it's this squad, and all five have a very vital part in all of the entire story here. And you have you sort of have like a group of 5 bad guys too. So I really like this. It has like a game feel to me.
Yeah, I think it works perfectly with the story. I think the story is incredibly well constructed, and just having like a different squad than normal, I really appreciate that. Especially like Alpine and Torpedo, you don't see them a lot. You know what I mean?
And I will say too, I didn't realize. So like, great having Bomb Strike leading, because she had some really cool story arc, and I was thinking, oh, are we going to be done with her for a while? And so I thought that was really cool to have her in that level. You'd think maybe like a Scarlet would be here because she's the typical female leader type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first time I opened the book, my first thing was like, well, why isn't Alpine leading the squad? Like, Alpine's been around forever, like, and Bomb Strike just came, but I quickly got over that as like we started like, oh, Bomb Strike's actually a really good leader, and that's probably why she was chosen for this position and everything else. But this does, the dossier does point out one of my irks with Sean Collins more than anything else, that anytime Cobra's around, he is supposed to be called Snake Eyes, but then Don's official code name is also Snake Eyes. Like, why are we creating this crazy confusion? Like, can they just not work together because we're going to call it Snake Eyes in the middle of a battle and we don't know who's going to answer?
They did actually hit on it a little bit in the book too, though, because I think Torpedo said Sean, or said Throwdown.
Yeah, and that's something that continues on, and they're not always as strict, and they mess up, and it's an ongoing complaint that I have, that he has these names in front of certain people and not in front of others.
It could also be one, now that Dawn is in the fray, do we need to fool Cobra anymore? Like, do we still have to fool them?
Needed to begin with. Like, why couldn't you just be like, oh, you know, Snake Eyes did die, but we do have this new badass ninja and this other guy over here, and I don't think it was necessary, but it's a minor complaint overall. So the story starts off, and Bomb Strike and Dawn go to Helix's adopted parents and start talking to her, and we start learning slowly about Helix, but she's not really exposed. So Helix's adopted mom was a MMA champion. I think she was a champion, definitely a fighter.
Yeah.
And her father was in the special forces. So she went through some trauma when she was younger, but then as a teenager, she was brought into this family and basically had the perfect G.I. Joe training in this household. You know, a special forces guy and an MMA fighter. But they're exploring her room a little bit, and they find her secret closet with pictures of all these girls that are missing, that have been involved in human trafficking. And I guess this is, I want to stop here and mention too, that this story feels more intense than most G.I. Joe stories to me, because it's all like real. Like, there's no like fantasy element to it.
What I thought about too when reading this is that a lot of, especially the stories that came right before this, and even really a lot of the IDW stuff, you know, you get your share of Cobra, but as you know from reading all of these, that you don't fight Cobra in every issue. there's a lot of things happening on the other side of the world, Middle East and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it ends up turning into like more military books, and that's okay. It's not always what I'm looking for from G.I. Joe. I like the characters. I do like that they joke sometimes, like cosplay, they kind of poke fun. So to get to a domestic story, so to speak, that has a little bit of Cobra tie-in. One of my all-time favorite Cobra characters is in the bad guy group, but it is still a real but also domestic story, so it kept my interest even more.
Well, I guess when I say a real too, like the fantasy elements of like a lot of times Cobra would have a silly reason for doing something, or have like weapons that are more sci-fi fantasy based, where you can like distance yourself from it a little bit more. Like, okay, I'm reading a fun fantasy story about war, which is serious. But this particular story is like, not only is it serious because we have war and stuff, but it's a very serious subject matter that's really going on in the world, and it was a bit more intense now. All right, so this page really, oh, look at that, you're talking about the binding issue. That page just fell out. I guess I do have that same problem.
These are meant to be, I've learned they're meant to be one read, and they will fall apart. Like they're trying to keep the resale pretty low on it.
Well, this works out for me because I do the custom binding that I've shown off in another video on my channel. So this will all be custom bound properly. And
do you have, by the way, do you have all these issues, floppies, or no?
No, not all of them.
Okay.
Basically, I would get the floppies monthly, and then once the trade came out, I would sell the floppies and just kind of keep going.
But that was back when you weren't really collecting.
Yeah. So now
you're a real collector, and you wish you didn't sell those.
No, I still only collect the covers I like. I'm not trying to be a completist and get the whole run.
Okay.
But so I want to mention, like, this page is a good example of why I really like Nito Diaz's work. Like, so we have this stuff that very much feels like a detective story, like something I would see in Daredevil or Batman or something, with all the, I don't know why, it just feels that way with the extra lines and then the lighting the way it is. And then instantly when we get to the action, it's like, bam, we're in another world. Everything's amped up. We're ready to go.
Yeah, I would say I felt the same way. I mean, it's much more condensed because most Joe comics always get right to the action.
Yeah.
They don't do a lot of extra detective work. In this case, it's like give the viewer the evidence and then start kicking butt.
Yeah, I think traditionally a lot of times you just have like one guy in the middle of battle, like a couple word balloons. Oh, remember Duke got all this information for us.
There'll be a close up on like Mainframe's computer. It says Cobra here. You're like, oh, there.
Oh, okay, thanks.
He found it.
But the story continues. They're basically going through all this. I thought this was a little disturbing myself, but they're going through and chasing down all the human traffickers and trying to figure out who's actually in charge. And here they use Dawn as like a pawn. They're like and pretending to sell her to this guy.
Yeah, some of the she's a little old for my guy and that kind of thing.
Yeah. What was the? Oh, she's kind of long in the tooth.
You know, can I admit something? I don't care if I sound stupid. I actually Googled that afterwards.
Long in the tooth?
I didn't know. I thought that meant old. I thought it, but I wasn't sure, and it was. I feel stupid for admitting it, but whatever.
You don't have to feel stupid. You confirmed how smart you were. You knew the answer, but you wanted to check first.
Well, also, I mean, do old people have long teeth? I don't know. I don't think so. They fall out.
I don't know where that saying comes from, like historically, but so they get to who they think is the big bad guy, and he's all screwed up and barely alive, and basically they find out that Helix left him to suffer, and he asked them to pull the plug if he gives them the information, and Dawn says no, which is pretty badass.
That's a recurring theme, is the make them pay. Which would you say, Brian, that both satisfies the we want them to suffer, death's too easy side, but also we don't typically see, I'm not going to say we don't see deaths in G.I. Joe, we do, but 90% of the deaths in G.I. Joe are nameless, faceless robots and troopers.
Yeah.
We don't usually see people with names and personalities always die. So that kind of handles both of those, right?
Yeah, it does. And the intensity of what he went through, even the action here of like the shooting, but the intensity of seeing how badly he's messed up begins to set the tone for the rest of this book. On like everything's like amped up, like everything's a little more gory, a little more gritty and violent in this story than you're used to in the normal Joe book, where like a robot's getting shot, so you don't see blood or guts or
Yeah,
anything.
it had a very, like you said, Daredevil. I kind of felt a little Punisher when I was reading
Yeah,
it.
yeah, for sure.
And a little bit of Batman Detective, but I felt very Punisher, and I don't know, they made Torpedo look like him too, but
I love Torpedo being in this story. Like it's so nice. I will say, when I was reading this initially, my first thought was, who the hell is this other guy?
yeah.
Like I was so confused again with my complaints about Sean Collins, but here he is with his rubber mask on, so he's just another dude because they're not in their outfits quite yet.
By the way, was he wearing green in that next scene on the right there because of, is it Kamakura he plays in the other run?
Oh, I don't know if that's the reason why or not. Maybe.
I saw that and I was like, I wonder if that was like a tie-in in some way.
Yeah, possibly. But you know, he starts showing his ninja skills and starts kicking ass and blah blah blah, doing his thing. Then we have the scene here that I always find annoying, that he pulls off his rubber mask and shows his hideous face, and the guy is so disturbed by this hideous face. Like, how rude is that? Like, there's people in real life that have like scars and stuff on their face. I don't go around like, oh.
I was wondering about that. Like, do you think that's almost like, I know that like, so like when Rob Liefeld created Deadpool, and it was kind of like it was one part, a lot of different things,
Yeah.
and then one of those parts was Snake Eyes. Do you think in a way it was kind of flipped from like the comedic elements of the Deadpool movies, where his face makes people, you know, like, oh, it's so great. Like, do you think there was something in there that was like I'm more scared of your face than of your fighting ability?
Because I mean, the original Snake Eyes, they did it pretty early on. I don't know. Don't know the exact issue, but within the first 30 issues of the book, you know, they have moments where he reveals his face to like the disgust of other people around him. Of course, you see the back of his head like you do here, so you're not seeing how ugly it is. But I don't know. Whatever, it is what it is. I just think it's a little overboard that this guy, who's this creep and wants to do all these nasty things, would be so
He's
disgusted.
like, I give up. He's
Right.
too ugly.
Yeah.
He's ugly. I give up.
But this is so there's another thing with Diaz's art that I wanted to point out that I really like, and it's like these like we're about to go to battle like shots that he has of the whole crew. And this point, we don't have the full squad yet, but we have the 3 guys that were in the scene. Now they're all suited up in their Joe gear.
That's another one where I saw it and I was like, I saw Punisher from Torpedo
Yeah.
there.
But it reminded me of like right before a commercial break. Like,
yeah.
All right, everything's about to happen. Here's your hero shot. We'll be right back.
Yeah, there was a few good moments of those. I like the ones when later all 5 of 4 for original.
Yeah, it's kind of like a reoccurring thing too. That there's several of those. This is really cool. So you have like they're moving the merchandise, the kids, which is kind of disturbing, but it's a real issue. But they start blasting away all these dudes.
They could have went more disturbing if they wanted to. When I was reading it, and it was like, I was like, okay, I'm like, I wanted to know how far they were going to go.
Yeah,
because they keep it human trafficking. They don't talk anything sexual at all.
No.
So they say killing. They say possibly killing the kids, but they don't get anything sexual outside of she's too young for him.
I mean, I think it's there, but it's on the reader to kind of read into that. They don't even hint at it really, but you know what's going on because of the world we live in.
And they also realize that this storyline is already on the real side. We don't need to go over the top.
Yeah, for sure. And this is one of those standard comic scenes. The whole page, it looks super cool and it's awesome, but when I get done reading it, I'm like, they threw all these bullets out there in the air and didn't hit a single kid. Like, wow, GI Joes are awesome.
Yeah, well, great shot.
Yeah, so we go through, and then this is where the book turned like even more intense and dark for me. They find the leader of this small group as they're continuing going through this hierarchy of level boss after level boss after level boss to get to the big one. But they find this guy all screwed up, and basically the kids have been slowly stabbing him and cutting off parts of him, but keeping him alive. So, and the kids aren't done with him and don't want him. Like they want to continue, and like, whoa, like
Yeah, there was like toes in a jar or something, right?
yeah, there's like the wastebasket is full of fingers, toes, ears, and like, whoa, all right, G.I. Joe.
I love it.
Not saying he doesn't deserve it, but it was more than I was expecting to read.
This is like you know, this would be under the like G.I. Joe Vertigo line, if you will.
Yeah, or like we were
Black
talking
Label.
about Daredevil and Punisher and stuff like the Max.
Max, or I think, yeah, there's, yeah, exactly.
But then we get Cutter and Shipwreck coming to transport them onto the next phase of the story. And here's another one of those cool shots of the whole squad, like shit's about to go down. We're ready for it. Yeah.
I do think awesome. Torpedo he's not the Bomb Strike should have gotten way more leader face time than he did in this book, by the way. She's leading the mission, and he's usually front and center. And they make Alpine is kind of like the, you know, he'll cover you on the back. But for some reason he was front and center a lot, which I like. Don't get me wrong. One of my favorite toys as a kid too. But you know,
maybe Torpedo's just better at finding the camera.
That could be. Well, because he has a mask on normally, right?
Usually, yeah. So this is like his one chance for you to see.
Right. I'm just saying. He's like, I shaved for this.
Right. So that's issue 1, and we've already gone through like 2 levels of this crime ring, and the Joes are still kicking butt, and we haven't seen Helix at all yet until, well, the cover image, but she hasn't appeared in the book at all. Another cover, and then bam, we're straight into the action again. We're in the water, and all the Joes are, they're looking for the oil rig, because that's where the next phase is. I enjoyed this little thing. You have Torpedo throwing a little Hawaiian out there, reminding us that he is Hawaiian.
That was just a little taste for you.
Yeah, just a little nod, which they recently did that in the book too with Gung Ho, where you threw a little Cajun out there just to remind you.
Do you think they brought in the oil part of it because of all of the Middle Eastern stuff that they've been continuing a storyline before this, and I'm guessing afterwards, keep reminding you that's still going on?
Maybe, but I mean, I think the bad guy in this was separate enough, but I guess maybe to establish it's in that same region, and that's kind of a prominent thing in that region.
Yeah, and even though these characters, I thought Bomb Strike was in the last trade, so I thought maybe if it's taking place at the same time, you can't pull her away too far. I could be wrong though.
That would make sense. I don't think they think that deeply into it, but it makes sense.
That's just like, is it like throwing darts at the characters poster? Who's going to be in the next issue?
Who's going to be in this one? Yep, there we go. That's
Alpine. You're up. All right.
So they get into the security room and start watching footage, and this is where we see Helix for the first time, as they're watching footage of her just wiping the floor with all these dudes.
Yeah.
And just absolutely kicking ass. And they Dawn notices that she's good with a katana and has some ninja, so they're slowly forming the character as being this badass fighter that she is. And then at the very end, like, oh shit, red ninjas too? Like, what the hell's going on in this story?
By the way, do you think Dawn and Throwdown are in this so that you can automatically establish Helix as that level of ninja right off the bat? They're saying, oh wow, when they watch the security footage.
Well, Sean's not saying that because he doesn't talk.
Oh, he didn't say, oh wow. He said there's one scene where he's like, it's like Throwdown's right, and he was just doing this, like up. Did he mean up? I think he meant up.
We'll get to that, because that's one of the things I wanted to point out. But yeah, maybe that is a good reason to have them in. I think more likely they're in because they were the big story arc before this was all about the Snake Eyes and Dawn and Throwdown.
And it helps you keep the title silent option.
Yeah.
We already decided that's the title, everybody.
But here's the big reveal that you'll like. So they go into the next thing, and not only are there a bunch of red ninjas, but Firefly's leading the red ninjas.
I was so happy. And yeah, he's one of my favorites, always has been. So I think it was really cool. And also the other reason I liked it, not because I just like him, but there's something about GI Joe storylines where I like all of it, obviously, but I need to keep Cobra ties back. I need to keep being reminded. I don't know what, even if it's Destro selling weapons or Mindbender doing something on the side or Zartan doing a changing, his look. I just need one of those in all my stories just to kind of remind me they are still the bad guys.
Well, it's kind of like that Stan Lee theory of any book could be someone's first book, so you have to establish the characters.
Well, it's also, I mean, think back to, I think it was in, I remember seeing it in that Toys That Made Us, about we have to have bad guys. Like, well, who will they fight? We're just going to put them on your shelf. Then you have to fight somebody. And
such a great
there's a certain level of, you need the bad guys that are known and relatable, and the ones that are kind of like not that bad. I mean,
Storm Shadow is one of my favorite characters. I talk about it a lot on the channel, but and one of the things that I love about it is that he's not really a bad guy, but he worked for Cobra, so you have this whole very cool story arc with him.
Zartan's not always bad. In fact, sometimes he looks like a good guy. Sometimes
it's hard to tell them apart. I don't know. So this scene kind of bothered me just because of what I do in my workplace. But Sean decides that they're sitting here in the security room and there's a camera, so he needs to shoot that because someone else could be watching. Okay. And then they decide to blast all the monitors. Like, that's going to do anything. Like, I guarantee you there's a server room somewhere else on this oil rig where everything's actually stored. Shooting the monitors didn't do anything other than make you not see the cameras.
Well, to be fair, if you want new monitors, the only way to get the boss to approve replacements is that they're broken.
I guess. But then, we have a My Little Pony cameo, which wasn't for any stupid, maybe a silly reason.
You're supposed to see it and laugh and then realize, it's about kids. I'm not supposed to laugh.
Right. Oh, these kids are going through horrible things.
Right. But it's like, My Little Pony.
Yeah. But they're examining all the dead red ninjas because Helix is still kicking ass. Oh, here's a good bomb strike front and center.
Yeah. I was happy about that one. I like her. I'm happy that I'm actually glad they're using her more and adding her into things because, after Scarlet, Lady J is pretty much the pit only. She's pretty much come on, that's shitty to make Lady J be like the housewife of the pit. I think that's kind of crappy. So you have Cover Girl, and a lot of people don't like her. And so I think it's kind of cool that Bomb Strike is getting in there. She had a really great story. I think either the trade before the one before this was really great with her doing a lot of badass stuff. So
yeah, I think Cover Girl could have been a lot more than she was. Like, they should have spent more time developing Cover Girl but whatever.
Yeah, maybe they will later. But I heard in 300 she kills everybody. She kills everybody.
The Cobra's on by herself.
You know what it is? I think she said, "I'm going back to modeling. I've had it. I've had it."
Yeah. This part of the story kind of got me. It tugged at my strings, and it was a little, quite a bit. I don't know. Again, this intense story led to this thing where, here's the scene where Sean, wait up, Throwdown sees something. How did you get that, Dawn? Just because he moved his head? Like, so that's usually Scarlet's role of translating for the original Snake Eyes, but now Dawn's translating for Sean. It's so silly, but we have to have some kind of communication out of Throwdown Snake Eyes. So I guess
I don't know how we don't have like artificial voice for, again, to make this version of Snake Eyes different than the original. Have him, he can't talk, but we have and you can make it cooler than you can do, but
even like a text to speak, and he has a little screen on his shoulder or something, like, hey, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But he notices one of the lockers is cracked open, and they find a kid hiding inside of it. And Bomb Strike and then Dawn are trying to comfort this kid, and like, holy crap, she's one of the kids that's going through this. So it all makes sense, and you're like feeling for her. And then it's exposed that she has an Arashikage tattoo that's upside down for some reason, which bothers the hell out of me.
Wait, is that the top of her back or
this is her belt line. So this would be the bottom. So unless she was hung upside down when she was tattooed.
For some reason, when I skimmed over, I just assumed she was upside down in that. Maybe I looked at it wrong.
Well, even if
Well, no, because that's a belt, so it wouldn't matter then. Yeah. Well,
Anyway,
I
so-
will say this though, if it's not on your arm, it's on your back, so that means you're trying to hide it. So maybe it is upside down on purpose.
So she can, when she looks at it, is correct. One of those things that tattoo
You're
artists
doing-
hate when you do that.
When you're doing handstands in front of the mirror,
Yeah.
that's why.
So anyway, so she is working with the Red Ninjas and has set up this giant ambush for the squad, which is crazy. And then like everything from here, I think there's some really cool ideas here. So then they all put on night vision goggles, like, oh shit. And then we have one more, but this is rather than like a hero image of all the squads, it's like confusion, like, oh, we're
How
blind.
can this little kid be a red ninja, by the way?
Man, I don't know. They must have started training really young. I don't know. Or maybe she's not, or he, I don't know if they really clarified if it's a boy or girl, but maybe the kid isn't really a ninja, but she's working with the ninjas.
Oh, that's true. There's no, yeah, maybe.
I don't know how she would get the tattoo though. I think you have to earn the tattoo, but I don't know. Anyway, so we go on. So now we're in the dark. And they set off an explosion, which in my knowledge of movies and TV has taught me this would burn the eyeballs of everybody wearing night vision.
Yeah.
But some of them seem to be okay with it and still fight. But this is one of my favorite panels of this whole story, where it's like, we're up, throwdown, it's freaking ninja time to get to business. And they're jumping into the action and just killing these red ninjas that are already on fire and going to burn to death anyway. So we could have just walked by them and let them die, but we're being kind of merciful here. Then, you know, the kid's on fire, so they have to deal with some gruesomeness there, where they're saying the only way to get the fire out is to actually cut the skin off in those areas.
No, yeah, water won't help.
Yeah. And then she gets hit with a star.
Yeah.
Then what happens?
Which was that just thrown by one of the red ninjas?
I think so. It wasn't like I was waiting for it to be like Firefly or, you know, a
Yeah,
bigger name.
I
but
was
think-
too, because it's like, it seems like too good. I mean, red ninjas are the stormtroopers, right? They're
Right.
not supposed to be, like, they have the qualifications of ninjas, but they're not, which is why they're being replaced by robots anyway. You know, I'm just saying, hey, look, blue beats red. I got a Pepsi can, just saying.
But yeah, I guess it was just a red ninja because that's the only thing that's around. And then this whole thing leads back to my teachings from movies and TVs, where these should all be blind because they had the night vision goggles on. Now we're throwing smoke so that way they can't see. Well, they should already be blind because, but whatever, maybe not. Maybe that's not how things work. I don't know. Maybe movies lied to me. But I did love this as well, like the back-to-back Snake Eyes doing the figure 8 cuts, like taking out a whole circle of red ninjas at once. That's pretty badass.
I like that Dawn's already surpassed Throwdown as far as ability too.
Well, I mean, if like the muscle memory and stuff came from Snake Eyes' memories, she should be.
The one thing they didn't address in these comics though is they didn't address the whole, which is the dominant personality or memories taking over. Are we supposed to assume that Dawn has conquered that and she can pull out Snake Eyes whenever she wants?
Oh, because they did talk about it before, but then really didn't talk about it in Silent Option. Yeah, it's kind of like a story element that just kind of goes away and then like comes back sometimes, but
Okay.
so,
It seemed like it was a cool story, her own struggle of I have all this power, but I need to be in control of when Snake Eyes comes out.
Almost like a Incredible Hulk type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's really in control type. Yeah, it's something I wish was explored more. It was like talked about it at times, and then you go long stretches where it's not an issue at all. And it's like, shouldn't it be like, whatever.
I mean, you could just make it easy and say she's at that level. She's gotten a few years older and she's overcome it. And you can even do a flashback scene with Granny Demon teaching her some more stuff. And
right. I think I kind of glanced over it when Firefly came out, but we finally get the reveal of the big bad guy, and it's Elsa, I believe is how you say the name. Not really sure.
Elsa. I think I was saying Elsa in my head.
But here she is, and she has Helix and has a bunch of bombs strapped to Helix, and she's going to take off in a helicopter. And that's kind of where this ended. Like, there's pretty cool cliffhangers at the end of each episode of this little short miniseries, which is pretty awesome. And then here's another one of those shots of the whole squad reacting because she throws Helix out of the helicopter and basically tells them that their only shot of surviving is to kill her in the air, like shoot her in the air before she hits the ground and blows everybody up.
And we know that's not going to happen.
We know it's not going to happen, but it's pretty cool. And just, I don't know, the artwork here is just really
It was awesome. Well, I will say this, we don't know how she was going to get out. So it was still a cliffhanger. You know?
Yeah, we didn't know that for sure. And then I thought this cover doesn't really work chronologically with how the story goes, but super cool cover.
Yeah,
I liked it a lot.
It is cool.
But then we have Helix falling still, and another one of those big hero shots of the whole group as they discuss what they're going to do. They have this nice conversation as she's falling through the air of how are we
I thought there'd be 5 word bubbles. I guess not.
Yeah. And then Helix decides that she'll just take care of it on her own. It's fine. So she does some crazy like gymnastics, magician tricks, and gets out of the bombs and throws them. And then we have one of those awesome.
I will say I did know what contortionist meant when I read that word.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
I knew that one.
Then we have one of these big coming at you awesome pieces there. Oh, I forgot about this. This is where Torpedo turns into a superhero and makes this giant leap.
Oh yeah,
that
was actually super weird to me, that part, because it was just like you trying to be. You know what I thought was going to happen? I thought it was going to be like maybe I'm going too far, but like the "I don't need a man to save me" kind of line. You know,
well, I mean,
because I think after was the don't touch me. Was that or not part of
it? So that gets into a little bit of her character a little bit, but I thought like, wouldn't the proper thing for Torpedo to do to jump towards the water and just get her after she hits the water, like go and save her there? That's where your domain is.
But then would have it exploded already? Maybe.
Well, the bomb already exploded.
Oh, you mean after it exploded? Get her.
Like as he makes his leap, why didn't he leap down into the water, let her hit the water, then scoop her out of the water, rather than make this?
Well, he didn't bring his fins. He didn't bring his fins.
Oh, maybe that's what it is then.
He's got shoes on.
But I mean, look at this. Like, what is the long jump on this guy? This is freaking amazing. Like, he missed his calling. He should have been in the Olympics.
Is that what they do in Hawaii?
Yeah, leap off piers a mile out. But then they both hit the water. Well, see, and I guess they hit the water. He didn't have to make that. So he did what I wanted him to do anyway, but he made this crazy horizontal leap first because they both hit the water separately.
He did like Edge doing a spear off the cage. Like there was no need to spear her in midair.
Yeah. That's crazy. But then you have Helix responding, "Don't touch me, I don't need your help," which goes along with her character in that, she is a very independent person, but then also it's hinted that she's on the spectrum. So like personal contact and stuff is
me reading that, I didn't get that. I thought she had a history of abuse herself.
And she did.
Upon reading that though, without knowing,
Yeah, well, and that's why I said this is the preferred way. I think the ideal, because I'm giving information that I guess you don't have if you're reading it from the trade,
right?
Because that information would come in a different story.
Yeah.
And when this was released as single issues, you actually got the silent option issue and then a piece of that last issue in the trade.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I say I think the trade's the better way to do it. You're not getting that like piece together stuff. Instead,
so
you're getting a whole mystery.
Each issue came with a couple pages of her backstory.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Which I don't like it that way. I like it the way it is here. But so they save Helix, get her on board, and she's still acting kind of standoffish and weird because that's the way that she is. But I love that about her. So then you have this cool scene with Dawn and Helix where they're just waiting each other out before they can kind of open up to each other. And
it was interesting too because Dawn kind of has a built-in tough guy persona, but realizes no, I have to be the one to make the first move here.
And maybe she saw that they have there's some parallels there with their youth and how they grew up, and like she can empathize with what's going on with Helix. And we get a cool shot of the flag.
Yeah, love that. And as we all know, it's the only way to get keel hauls to own a flag. Just saying. I learned that one in '86.
And then you have this like bond between Dawn and Helix still forming, where like Dawn has this connection with Helix. This is really cool. And then I think this is the first time where we like get a hint of Helix's backstory. And and this is where they mention that the school counselor thinks she's on the spectrum, which I guess is they've kind of, I don't know, sort of backtracked with her story, where she may not be on the spectrum, she may have some special powers, or she may, like, it's kind of left up to you to decide. But here, like, her school counselor thought she was on the spectrum.
Yeah.
And like her just struggling to fit in as a kid, and it was pretty crazy.
Did they talk about in this? I don't remember if it was like that they just recently adopted her and haven't had her since she's maybe like 8 or 9 here, maybe. Does it feel like they just like, we just moved here, Dawn? You got to make, or you have to make friends.
I don't think that they didn't come out and say like timeline wise, like she's new to this home. It was just, it wasn't really established in this. I think you almost had to have that knowledge of the backstory to know that. But this is where her mom takes her down to the basement, where she's going to start training her to be the badass that she will become. And I don't think it was ever clear either. Like, they mentioned that her mom was an MMA fighter, but I don't think they ever mentioned like what form of martial arts that she specialized in.
All
of them. Yeah. Oh, so wait. Oh, well, she did talk about her sensei. I don't know. Maybe I just missed it. Maybe it's in here somewhere.
Yeah, but typically, if you're, I don't know. I mean, they all have different names. Whatever you're learning. So yeah. In a way, I don't want to say like a cop out, but it is easy to just say MMA and just be like,
right. Yeah, but she was doing some flying kicks and stuff in here, so there's definitely some.
I would say though, to make her into the fighter she is, you should probably be well-rounded. So maybe it is like jiu-jitsu and taekwondo,
Possibly, yeah, that would make sense. But again, I really love, because I like both characters, I think, and because like it's this cool bond where they have this understanding of each other. It continues on with Dawn and Helix. Helix opening up a little bit more, and Dawn showing that she understands what's going on. And here's another physical touch type scene.
Yep.
Oh, there's your guy.
That's what I'm saying. Loved it. Right in that moment, you need to be saluting him. Yeah. Admiral.
And then we're off to find where Isla. What do we agree on? Isla?
I think Isla, we said, right?
Okay.
Oh, was it I or E?
It's I.
I was saying Ilsa. Is it ILSA?
ISLA, yeah.
Oh, Isla. I think in my head I was saying Ilsa, but actually it's probably Isla. Or could be Isla, like a soft I think it's there's an actress that I think Isla Fisher spelled that way. ISLA. I think it's Isla. But anyway. Okay.
Let's go with Isla.
Either way, we don't like her.
No, she's a horrible person. That's what we know for sure. But then they think the kids are in this cargo plane. They think they've outsmarted her, but it was really just a trap the whole time, and it blows up in their face. And then it's revealed that not only was it a trap, but the big bad guys are going after her parents now. So they're going to go back there. So Firefly and...
Hey, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
And we have some hooded red ninjas, which is always fun. But
I didn't even notice
Firefly's ready to take this house down.
No offense, but all red ninjas look the same to me.
And again, taking like real world logic into a fantasy element, but Firefly's an explosives expert. Why didn't they just blow the whole house up? Just be done with it.
Does it feel the entire story that Firefly is so reluctant to be there and reluctant to help? Like, almost like he drew the short straw there being involved in this.
Well, I mean, he always did. I think in this case, like, he's probably not working with Cobra, but he's out doing his own thing as like mercenary work. So maybe
well, I mean, it's him alone, but there are red ninjas, so you're right, it could be mercenary work.
So maybe he's doing it for the money reluctantly, like he doesn't
reluctantly,
really agree
but it's very
but
he's not the money. He's not happy being there, and he could have probably done something way more explosive to deal with it.
Yeah, then we have continuing.
Is this the fourth one?
You what?
Is this the fourth issue?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So
Oh, sorry, you're on the trade. That bad guy there, is it like, was it Fargo or something? Was it
Ronco?
Yeah, I was like, oh man, that's what I want to look like.
Yeah.
That
So
guy's
now
cool.
they're in the house. The parents aren't in the house, but the mom left the phone behind. So, the bad guys know they're there somewhere.
Yeah.
But of course, in this house, as this awesome fighting pit in the basement, there's also a panic room.
Yeah.
So they're upstairs in the panic room.
And they explained the phone. There was a rush to get there, which that's some real life stuff there too. The idea of, when you're in fight or flight, emergency hits, like everyone thinks they're going to have, I'm going to grab this and I'm going to grab this and I'm going to do this and then make sure this, like, you're not going to do any of that.
No, you're going to get your ass out of there.
Right.
This was a cool badass moment too, where Helix is driving and sees the van in front of her house and just plows right into it.
When I was reading this, I was thinking she was already pissed off about having to drive that truck anyway. Yeah. So it was like, let's fuck some shit up. Sorry. I don't know if we do swearing. I'm sorry.
This far into the video is fine.
Okay. Or you can edit it. I'm sorry. Let's F some S up.
No, but I mean, it's just so awesome. Like, it's just all like emotion, and she's not a Joe, so she doesn't have any higher standard that she's supposed to be held to. Like, she's just on her own, like defending her parents.
Do we also know if she's even old enough to drive though, or?
I believe, I don't know if it ever mentions her age, but I assume that she's at least as old as Dawn.
Okay, because again, maybe I get caught up in that kind of stuff, but it shouldn't really matter. But sometimes I'm like getting caught up in the is this a kid or not a kid?
But I thought this was really cool too, the way that they actually mention, and it happens all the time with Larry and his like real world experience in life. But they're like covering fire for each other and actually laying out the plan that, we're going to go to this side, you're going to go to that side, and it's all spelled out for you. So if you're not in the know or you can't follow the art, like, that these guys are working together as this awesome squad of soldiers.
Well, it also reminds you too, like for someone like me, like I enjoy hearing like the tactical side come into play. Mm-hmm. As much as I love flashy ninja stuff, that's not my favorite thing about G.I. Joe. It's just not. It's cool, but it's not my favorite thing. So I like when they bring it back to the, you cover me here, you do this, and there's even they even talked about I got to reload. Like, oh, when do you ever read that someone's actually reloading? Everything seems like unlimited ammo.
Right. Here we have Dawn throwing her swords, which is always an effective move, right?
They made it through the other panel too. I saw that.
Yeah, indeed. Then Helix like goes off on her own, basically. Like everyone else seems to be like trying to like get her back under control as they're trying to get back in and cover her and help her out, and she's just kind of gone rogue. Yeah. Which she's not part of the team yet, so that makes sense that she's just used to being her own badass and not working.
Well, and it's her house. She knows her parents are there, so
yeah,
just whatever, just go nuts.
Yeah, she's on raw emotion right now. But they're just freaking mowing through the bad guys and the red ninjas like it's.
Oh, how about that? Oh, real quick, go back one. How about that neighbor across the street? What a piece of crap.
Oh, yeah.
That guy sucks.
Fucking guy. There's some history there. Well, totally. He even mentions it. He's been complaining about this for years.
Yeah, they get him later on though, I think. They get him at the end.
Yeah. So the parents in the panic room had this whole plan too, where they set off an explosion. And it really well. These guys were freaking prepared. You came into the wrong house.
Yeah.
But Helix taking on 3 red ninjas at once, no trouble at all. Just an awesome fight in a closed environment in this house. Super cool stuff. Loved it all. Then
that moment on the right I loved, where it was very much those moments when bad guys turn on each other are always fun, because even in a serious kind of note, it's very much a she did it, no he did it, and then she basically shoots fire. Isla shoots Firefly, and he's like, no, that's not how you shoot people.
Right, a headshot would have been more efficient.
I wonder if he left her. Because did he kill her there or just mangled her?
No, just mangled her, and that's
okay.
Again,
so left her alive for the right, exactly, left her alive for this next moment. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, is what I was trying to get
from
to.
Firefly's standpoint, probably not. I mean,
He probably just wants like, you know what? No, I'm done.
yeah, like shoot.
I just checked. The money's already wired to me. You're done.
Yeah. But I mean, this again is like another instance of, all right, we got the big bad guy, but we're not just going to kill her. She's going to sit here and suffer. Like half of her face is shot off. She's choking on her own blood and bone fragments. Like, damn. Like, okay. Like, again, she deserved it, but wow.
Well, especially this awesome shot here is like, you know, it's just pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just super awesome. Like, oh, I don't know.
This is very much, I mean, would you say that in general, G.I. Joe is like PG-13, but this is R?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay.
But I mean, this whole, like, it would be like the most badass movie scene ever. Like, oh, so you're gonna kill him? No, I just need to get the cap off this pen and open up her airway so she can keep suffering longer. Like, whoa.
Did you feel with to cram it in there? Did you feel any Kill Bill with the yellow and black and everything too?
Maybe, but I mean that was established before, you know, she ever got into this continuity, so maybe not, but I don't know, maybe possibly. I don't know where the influences came from originally from EA with the video game.
Oh, that's right. This is my first taste of Helix, so I didn't realize how old, you know.
So then we have the SWAT team shows up and the parents are trying to BS their way out of this whole thing of why there's dead ninjas all over their house, which
I think they blamed it all on the neighbor. So
yeah, basically. But yeah, so that's the end of the silent option story. Then in the trade you have the codename Helix, but we're not going to go into that. In the book that I wanted to talk about there was the silent option. So that is silent option. So I think you could tell our opinions already from talking about it and how excited we were, but I don't want to speak for you. What did you think of the story?
Do you do ratings on this show or no? What do you do?
I do, and we're going to get to that in a second. But first,
okay, sorry. I can't wait.
All right. So what did you think of silent option?
I really enjoyed it. I didn't know what to expect. Me coming in as I would say a new Joe comic reader, reading the IDW series from the beginning. You know, you told me to get into it around the Death of Snake Eyes storyline, and I started. And I was like, no, I got to go back and start it. The first one of this, you know, run 156, and I'm very happy I did it because I've seen a lot of characters that I liked as a kid. I've seen a lot that get out there chance. So getting up to this, it was for me a very different take because it did feel more adult, more real. I really liked it a lot, and I think this book could actually be read by a non-GI Joe fan and still get into it.
That's always hard for me. That's something I struggle with, and maybe if anyone has any suggestions, I'd love to see them in the comments down below, because I have someone in mind that I'm trying to find someone that has no knowledge of GI Joe. Like, what story do I give them? Because so many of the stories, like, you're required to at least know something about the characters. But yeah, maybe this would be a good one.
I mean, if you think about it,
there would still be questions they have, but
yeah, but if you really think about it, this could have been a movie that, so you know when you watch a trailer of a movie, and nowadays they give everything away, but let's say when they're giving everything away in this trailer, there's like this montage with a boom character, and you see like this A team in a sense. So I'm going to tell the audience who this is. You didn't know before because it's not an let's pretend it's not an existing IP, and you go and watch the movie. You realize, oh, there's a real thing going on, but then it's badass and a lot of action and female driven. It's awesome. And then we close the book. I think it could easily, there's ninjas, which are universal. You don't need to know who Firefly was. All you have to know is he was the muscle with the traffickers. That's all, the muscle bad guy.
And you can use like the hero's reaction to Firefly too, to let you know that, oh, this guy is a badass. Because
there was one callback. It was I threw him off a train right. So there was that, which just recently happened, but books. But yeah, other than that though, I don't think so. I mean, the only questions you would get is, why are there two black suit ninjas when you could have easily just had Dawn, and Sean Collins did not have to be part of the story at all. He didn't really add anything to it. You know?
Yeah, I mean, the stuff he did add wasn't, you could have replaced him with just about anybody.
I was thinking silent option meant at the end, like they go and do their debrief to Hawk, and he goes, "I made my decision. Sean, you're fired. I've made the silent option." And then Don's like, "But I talk." And he's like, "Even better." And then they all laugh, and then the credits roll.
Well, that is one of the things, I guess I didn't touch on that with Dawn, that Larry mentioned in a couple interviews. Like, Dawn as Snake Eyes gives him the opportunity to tell all these Snake Eyes stories with a voice now, and that changes the story dynamic completely with that character, and it's awesome. We should definitely do that. But then you introduce Throwdown that can't talk. I was like, you put yourself right back in the same situation. Like,
So me not knowing what comes after this, because this is around 260. Are we at right now?
So 250 leads up to this, and so 251.
Oh, that's right. These aren't in the numbers.
Yeah.
I don't know what comes after this, but assuming Dawn is still around by issue 300, wouldn't it suck for her to get her vocal cords damaged and her face get mangled in issue 300?
I would not be a fan of that.
It's like issue 300 opens with, "There's been an accident." I'm like, no.
But overall, I think I mentioned it once before. I think this being like a self-contained story, and I loved it. I loved the trade before this, volume 20, which is more Dawn focused, and then this are some of my favorite stories definitely from the IDW era of A Real American Hero, but maybe overall.
I love that previous trade is Dawn of the Arashikaji.
Yes. But so much of that, those covers leading up to it, and then some of these covers again, like, made me think that this was another Dawn story. And then I started reading, I was like, oh, this is actually a Helix story. It's not a Dawn story. Dawn just happens to be in it. But this is like the beginning of their partnership too, where them working together becomes a thing going forward.
Quick side note, I do enjoy, at least in this current era, they do a lot of these, I don't want to say buddy comedy because it's a serious subject matter, but I've noticed Larry in this time period is doing a lot of pairing up two characters at a time for adventures. And so like my favorites have been, just for comedic purposes, Cobra Commander and Mindbender, awesome. And Destro and Zartan, awesome. Like, I just like, they're doing these like buddy stories. I've noticed a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the ideal way to write a story, where you have hundreds of characters. You can't like do the whole thing, so you break it down. Like, this small group of people are sent out on this mission, so that's what we're going to talk about for a while, which is ideal. I mean, I've mentioned before, I think that would be a great way going forward in the book to actually improve the book, is if you use some of those squads that you developed in the past, of like Night Force is these 4 guys or 5 guys, and they're going to go out, and Tiger Force are these guys, and then have like a big story where you bring all of them together. Like, oh, now shit's real serious, because we need Tiger Force and Night Force and Ninja Force and everybody else. Yeah, so overall, I love this book. It sounds like you enjoyed it. I think we're ready to rate it. So the way I want to do ratings on this channel is it's going to be 1 through 5. You can do half ratings, but I want to compare the book that we've just read and 2 other G.I. Joe books. So rating it.
Well, 5 what? Like 5 katanas, 5 Uzis?
Well, I would love to do 5 Yojo Colas, but Talking Joe podcast already does that, so I can't take their thing.
Yeah. How about 5 chuckles? No, I don't know.
5 chuckles. I don't know. It's just a number at this point.
You know what? Retcon it later. Whatever we give,
Absolutely.
That many, whatever you come up with.
I mean, Larry said that every G.I. Joe story is really just a retcon, so screw it. We're going to retcon this someday.
Okay.
But for now, so rating the story in comparison to other G.I. Joe books, not in comparing it to like the greatest piece of literature ever. Out of 5, what would you give this?
I'm going to give it a 4.0. I think that's very enjoyable. I liked it a lot. Helix is a new character for me, so being able to get introduced to her and get to see more of Dawn, it probably would have got, very good score, which if I get to rate any other ones. There was no real like flaws with it, other than maybe kind of some of the, like, why, you know, why the other Snake Eyes is there. That's probably my only real gripe. I do like that they handle real subject matter, but it's also, like I said earlier, I looked at GI Joe for certain things, and you know, I'm not always like, give me the ninja stuff always too, but I like it. It's entertaining. But so I usually prefer a little more on the tactical army type missions type things, but I liked it a lot. So I think 4 for me.
Right on. I loved it. I think I've said it multiple times now, like it being a self-contained story, the real world elements of it, this mystery of who is Helix and the way they've introduced her, where like the Joes were finding out along the way as well. It was really cool. I love the interactions with the characters and the squad using Alpine, using Torpedo that you don't see too often, having Bomb Strike lead them. It was, you know, something that was a little bit different than what we typically get most of the time. I loved it. I'm going to give it a 4.5. It's one of my favorite Joe stories.
There you go.
So I guess that wraps up the video. I want to thank you for being on. I'm sure you will be on another episode in the future.
Thanks for having me. You know, if possible, we get some Flint in the next one.
Yeah. I mean, we can do some Flint stuff. Maybe
get some Darkland stuff in there, because I'm not him, but I'd like to read about him though.
Indeed. Yeah. But thanks for being on. I appreciate it. I hope that if you made it this far into the video, that you will like the video, subscribe to the channel, and watch more. You're the first guest on the channel, and this is the first book flip through / review. So lots of firsts that you were a part of. So thank you.
I'm happy to be here. I think that no one can ever take the first guest mantle from me. First guest, smash that sub button.
That's right. Something that can't be taken away.
Well, you can take away a subscription. You can unsmash it.
That's happened very recently on this channel, but that's all right. Who cares?
Blurpcast went over 300, then went under 300. I was like, what the heck? What? Who's leaving?
All right. Well, thank you again, and thank everyone for watching. I look forward to the next book that we pick out and we can flip through and read together, because this was a lot of fun.